Hey guys, Jason here. So we've been getting a lot of questions and stuff in the last couple weeks since announcing that Cooperative Motorworks is shutting down. So I thought I would clear up some of the confusion, answer some of the questions I've been hearing, and just kind of give you a what's it going to look like in the future in regards to motorhomes, the GMCs, restorations, people still working on them, stuff like that. All right. So I guess first thing I want to say is that we we just have to shut down Cooperative Motorworks because it's too big, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But I I'm probably one of the youngest people out there in the country that has an interest in actually having a restoration shop for GMC motorhomes specifically, and wants to continue keeping these things alive. I love them. I have 5 of them. I definitely drank the punch. It's something that I want to continue working on the rest of my life. So if you are a GMC enthusiast, if you drink the Kool-Aid, if you want somebody out there still keeping these things going in 5, 10 years when probably all the other shops are going to be getting close to retirement age, they may be phasing out, then I'm probably your best hope for that. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about my qualifications, what I think is relevant to the GMC community and to being the person that I am doing this, and also what this next couple of weeks, months are going to look like for us and for the GMC community with us shutting down Cooperative Motorworks as it is. All right, so I guess I'll go back a little bit. My upbringing, I kind of talked about it in one of the earlier videos a while back, but I grew up on a farm in the middle of Washington State, and my dad was an iron worker, and I had a passion for Legos, building stuff from day one. I mean, I was that kid that was making transmissions out of Technic Legos and stuff, and making them actually shift and drive around. This stuff that was probably quite a bit ahead of time for most kids. So, I mean, I just had this passion for anything automotive, anything technological. I built my first computer. My first car, I had to change the engine out a couple of weeks after I got it, because I threw a rod through the engine block. And my dad had this thing of, he would help me in any way he could on fixing it, but I had to do the work myself. I couldn't take it to a mechanic shop or anything. He'd buy me any tool I needed. He'd buy me manuals, anything like that. And anytime I needed someone to hold a wrench or do something like that, he was there to help me. Fantastic teacher. I mean, he was somebody that retired from construction, ironworking for 30 years. He used to run, whole crews of people. And then he was a farmer on top of that. So we had a big, 2,500 acre grain farm that I was out, driving hot rods around, that I built, dune buggies, stuff like that, welding things up, making things. And so I got, just a lot of experience working on stuff early on. Well, going out of high school, I knew I didn't want to be, in an office. I didn't really want to go to college. So I wanted to turn wrenches. I wanted to be a mechanic, but also I wanted to go in the military. So I went in the Marine Corps. I did about 10 years in the Marine Corps. I was a motor T mechanic, diesel tech. I went through all the schools. I was top of all my classes. I was a Humvee mechanic, 7 tons, 5 tons, LVSs. Went through a bunch of other schools that associated with that. So early on, I learned how to fix just about anything. And I excelled at it. I did really well. I did a couple of tours in Iraq. And I was convoy security for one of them, but another one I actually got promoted up to running a night crew that did preventative maintenance checks and services on all of the fleet. So I had to run actually civilians under me and make sure that we were maintaining like all the vehicles properly. And so they entrusted me with that. I finished that deployment. I got back to the States. The second I picked up E5, they made me the platoon sergeant of the biggest Motor T platoon in the Marine Corps, to my knowledge. I had about 110 Marines at most points under me. So I ran a motor pool that had just a ton of people in it. We set records on up armoring the most vehicles in a month. We were running, 24/7 with like overlapping crews. So I learned a lot on how to manage personnel and how to, run a motor pool. But, those skills, like I didn't have to touch money or anything back then. So that was a little bit different than today. But, we learned how to do, SOPs and, have everything with, formations and keeping everybody in check. So I have a lot of history in that. Now, I did about 10 years. I decided that, as I got higher in rank, it got to the point where it was looking like if I stayed in, I was going to be stuck in a cubicle or at a desk pushing papers. Just really wasn't what I wanted to do. I was still young enough that I was like, I can get out, I can get paid to go to school, the GI Bill, might as well use that while I'm still young enough that I can still actually turn wrenches and have fun and do that kind of stuff. So I decided to go to the Motorcycle Mechanic Institute in Orlando. I did that, and I was, a student of the course, a student council, a bunch of stuff. And I graduated with all the honors you could get, perfect attendance, things that, whatever. And I was going to take some time off, but I decided to, they asked if anyone wanted to do a phone interview, Skype interview with Richmond Harley Davidson. So I was thinking, why not? Did it. They offered me a job on the spot. I thought, this is probably the perfect opportunity. Work on Harleys for a little while, and then I can go do something else after that. I did it. Loved it. That's actually where this shirt comes from. You guys see it a lot probably, but I got 5 of them, so I might as well use them for something, and they hold the microphones well. But I worked at Harley, and I got to work on all sorts of motorcycles, and I loved the organization of the shop. I loved how everything was run, having to track everything with a time clock and everything, so you knew exactly how long it took you to do an oil change or change out, a clutch or something like that, or rebuild an entire engine on it. And so it was very good structure, but it was in Virginia, and I've lived in Virginia before, but going into winter with working on motorcycles, and you have to test ride them and stuff, I was like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do my other thing that I wanted to do after the Marine Corps, which was commercial diving. So I went to the Commercial Dive Academy in Jacksonville, Florida. I was valedictorian of that class. So underwater construction, underwater welding, that's what people always think of when you say, underwater welders. That's the people, that are commercial divers, which not every commercial diver does underwater welding, but all underwater welders are commercial divers. So whatever. So I did that, and I was offered a job at Discovery Cove in Orlando before I even graduated. I went there. I worked there for a couple of years as a night diver. Loved it, just scrubbing shark tanks and stuff in the pitch dark, not something everybody wants to do, but right up my leg, my alley. So did that, and I was getting ready to leave there and go to, I was going to go work at Miami Diver. I had a buddy that worked there, and I actually got a phone call, somebody asking me to manage a scuba shop in Orlando. So I ended up doing that instead, so I didn't have to relocate. And I ran that for a few years, and I just kind of got to the point where that wasn't really what I wanted to do anymore. I left there, and I just happened to live right next to Cooperative Motorworks, and ran into Jim in the parking lot, and he was like, when are you going to finally come work for me? Because when I told him I worked on Humvees, he was telling me he was trying to put a Humvee engine in a motorhome. So he was kind of drooling over having me as a technician there for a while. So I said, you know what, it's your lucky day. I'm ready to come work for you. So came in, started working, worked here for about a year, a little over a year, before COVID hit. COVID, obviously we shut down. If you watch Jim's video before this, he talks a little bit about it, but we went into COVID with, I was just turning wrenches, and I was actually our top earner. I was the one turning in the most billable hours. I had the least amount of warranty work and stuff like that. And so, I knew what I was doing, and I did it well because, I had 20 something years probably of mechanical background. So I had a pretty good understanding of motorhomes. I had already bought my first GMC motorhome at that point, and I hadn't fully restored it. And so, when they started getting ramped up to open the shop back up, they messaged me, they called me and they said, hey, we would like you to be the one that manages the shop going forward. So I said, all right, I'll take some thoughts on it. I'll put something together. So we discussed it. I came in, we kind of sat down, talked about everything. And honestly, that's when I started realizing that there wasn't really a lot of there was no SOP for this place. There was no one that really knew all of the projects that were going. It was a mess. And it's easy to blame any person, but it was a lot of people that were kind of assuming that someone else was doing something and they really weren't. So I came into like a storm. Plus, obviously being shut down for COVID, we were down for a couple of months and not making any money, and there was still rent and stuff like that were being charged for us. So we didn't get any breaks on that. We didn't get the loans or any of that stuff to cover it. But I came into it with just, hey, we want you to manage the projects. Kind of some of the customers, and what's expected, and you've probably talked to a few of them. So I went, all right, I'll give it a shot. Did it for a little while. And then I started seeing, a lot of issues. And that's when I decided that probably the best thing for me was to not be an employee, but just a contractor. So I was not, I am not today a employee of Cooperative Motorworks. I'm actually just a contractor that's hired to manage the stuff. And so, I don't really have ties to CoOp, but I still try to do the best job I can on handling all the things. When I did that, there was another person that was trying to buy the shop from Jim, and that fell through. And they wanted different things. I started being the interpreter because I speak Jim's language and I speak other people's language pretty well. So he was asking me to basically help him navigate through that. And I was trying to make it work. I was trying to help negotiate that because Jim had just come out of, I think, having a heart attack or two. He was just in a place where he needed to not have the stress of this place. So I did what I could through that once it fell apart and turned out that it wasn't going to be a viable option. He actually sat down with me and he was like, I would like you to be my successor. He's like, I want you to be the one that carries the torch of the GMCs into the next century or whatever. I guess we probably won't make it quite that long, but but just to continue it. And I actually really appreciated that because, he had built something that was really impressive. I would say he's tried more things than probably all of the other GMC people out there almost combined. Don't quote me on that, but it's, he's always been up for trying new things and seeing what could make these GMC motorhomes better than what they originally were. And that's totally my type of thing. I'm a resto mod person. I'm not a let's restore it back to original. Not my cup of tea. I like to take things and make them better than they ever were. That's always been my MO, is take something, make it better. The Marine Corps always told us to leave something better than we found it, so that kind of carried through. So anyways, we started sitting down and talking about what that would look like and how we could set that up. And at that point, I didn't know really financially what was going on with the company. It was all kind of, I wouldn't say hidden, but it wasn't my business. I didn't have a reason to be all that involved in knowing how much money we were making or how much loss we were taking or anything like that. So once he started saying, I would like you to do this, Then we started going, okay, well, what does that look like? Do I buy the company from you? Do I start a new company? What do we do? And I already knew that this place was probably too big, too expensive, and we don't own the building. Jim doesn't own the building. He's been renting it, and it goes up so much every year that it's, with the way it's inflating, there's no chance that we could support it long term. So when we started digging around, I started learning a lot more of what the financials were, and it was scary, honestly. And so that's around the time that we started doing the Save the Dream videos. I'm not the type of person, whoops, hitting the mic, not the person that wants to take handouts and stuff. I wanna earn everything that I get in my life. And so it was really difficult for me to do that. And it wasn't me saying, hey, I want you to give me money for me. It was me saying, hey, I want this so we can continue supporting the GMC motorhomes, because it looks like most shops are going to be out of business in the next 5-10 years anyways. So if this doesn't stay, if we don't have a team going forward, who's going to still support the GMC motorhomes in the future? So we did the whole Save the Dream and the Give, Send, Go and stuff, and I was a little handicapped because I'm not the type of person that wants to air dirty laundry or anything like that. There's a lot of mistakes made by a lot of people in the past, and it's not anyone's business for the most part, just that this place really didn't have a standard operating procedure. And so I tried setting that up and stuff, but this place was so out of control with how many projects it had. It runs the business, not the business running it. And that's the big problem. And I wasn't I wasn't in a position where I could like get a loan to save this place because I couldn't put my name on it. There was no one that was probably going to give me a loan for what kind of debt we were trying to erase. So trying to balance all that and pay more money per month just on rent than what we were bringing in, typically, it was difficult. Plus, trying to keep employees when you can't really pay them. I mean, I've actually been unpaid for the last probably more than 6 months. I was going to hold a stack of my checks and show you all the voided out checks, but I forgot to grab them. But I'm not trying to have a pity party about, oh, Jason doesn't get paid and he does this. I do commercial diving on the side. That's kept my door, my lights on my own house, and, kept me eating food occasionally. So, but I don't want anyone thinking that I've been profiting off of any of those, give, send, goes or stuff that people send us, because in my mind, if I can't pay the employees, then I don't deserve a paycheck myself. That's just the way I would operate. It's just like you feed your Marines before you feed yourself. It's just that kind of leadership. I don't want to be a boss. I want to be a leader. I want to do the right thing. So going forward, we've made the determination. We have to leave here. That's not even in our control. That's outside of us. The landlord wants us to leave by the end of January. That's already been said. We would like the support of the community to come in and buy up all the stuff that I can't take with me. If I do find a place right away, I still am not going to be able to take all of the little trinkets and, interiors and stuff like that Jim accumulated over the years. And I don't want to be the person that sends that stuff to the scrapyard and you find out, 5 years from now that you needed a seat that you can't even find anywhere and we had it and it just got melted down. That's not what I want. I would love for people to just take the stuff and haul it away. I mean, I will talk about the auction in here soon, but we aren't trying to make a lot off of this. All we're trying to do is pay off everyone that's owed money here, and that includes employees, that includes vendors, stuff like that. We've tried to do as good a job as we could with keeping everything going, and we could have shut this place down a year ago, but more people would have been hurt at that point. And we finished a lot of projects, even though it was a lot of doing it for almost free, because we'd already used up all the money that they had allotted for the job. And so we tried to do everything we could in our power to get as many coaches to go home successfully finished as we could do. And we were successful in some of them. They had little issues because we were also working through some R&D stuff. I mean, I kind of stepped into the middle of like having to figure out how to get the fuel injection to work and the fuel tanks and the serpentines and all that stuff. And I feel like I have figured those things out, but it didn't come easy, and it was of great cost to the company because there was a lot of things that we only charged the customer once for, but we did 5 times because we had to try 5 different ways to do it to make it work properly. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to be able to benefit the community by showing them, okay, if a part becomes unavailable, we'll find a new way to do it, like the radiators. And I'm not saying the radiators are unavailable. Applied has new radiators and stuff, but we found a different way of doing radiators. And that's just, it took a lot of research and development because there's a lot that goes into that you wouldn't even think about. So, but once I set up a shop, what I'm going to be doing different than what was done here is I'm going to actually be involved in every aspect of the business. I've already been reading books on business and accounting and stuff like that. I don't plan on letting the business run me. I plan on staying on top of the finances. I'll start small. I want to build a very solid foundation, and I want to make sure that we at least break even on every coach that we do. If I can't do it, then there's no reason to not make a profit in a business. So do everything in my power to make everything fair and accurate, and no one's getting overcharged or double charged. And what I quote you for a job is what you'll pay for it, unless you add something on top of it. That's just the way I try to do business. So that'll be a lot easier when it's under my business and it's not having to go and oh, we got to pay this person or this thing, because I'm starting fresh and I learned those things before starting the business. And so my commitment is to run the business properly with a good SOP. I do plan on building bigger. I want to eventually be able to build many coaches, but I want to do it right, and I want to be able to train a team or multiple teams up and have all the framework that everyone can do everything the right way the first time, and there's enough checks and balances that we aren't having to go back and redo things because somebody missed a step because there was no training on how to do it because no one really knew how to do it in the first place. So, and I hope you can see from the videos that we've done that, like I've been in a few of the videos where we talk about how to actually do things. And those are a lot more work involved in the videos than just sitting in front of the camera like I'm doing now. But, the amount of editing and the amount of time spent on shooting multiple takes and showing, okay, this is the tool you need, this is the part you need, this is the sequence, these are the torque specs. That's the kind of stuff that I would like to offer the community, because if I'm a small shop, I can't work on everyone's coach. And I have a line of people that already want to work with me, and I don't want people held up because I have too long of a line. So I want to be able to help everyone out there with providing the information. So I think that covers most of my background. I'm going to talk a little bit about our farewell rally. So we've got the farewell rally. We're going to set it up January 16th through the 19th. So that is a Monday through Thursday. That's us basically cleaning the shop out, setting everything up, taking pictures, posting stuff on Facebook or wherever, however we're doing the online auction stuff. We're still trying to figure that out. If you have a good way of doing that, I'm willing to hear. Don't call us, and you can call Jim, but if you call Jim, his cell phone, you can get it if you're a Patreon member. But for me, right now, I really just need people to send stuff to info@cooperativemotorworks.com. We're checking that. If you call the shop line, don't expect anyone to answer it. It's the answering machine's full. We just haven't had enough time to sit down and do that. We're trying to pump out that last couple of projects, get people off site. It's madness over here. So please bear with us. It's not us ignoring you. Well, it is us ignoring you, but we're not doing it to be mean to you. It's just we got a lot of other stuff to go on, and we can't go through and answer phone calls when we're out in the back and stuff. So plus, we're trying to get you guys ready for not having that phone line anymore. We're going to have to shut down the landline at some point because we won't have this building. So anyways, the auction is going to go January 20th and 22nd. That's a Friday, Saturday. We are going to strongly prefer the people come here and make bids on stuff in person because, if you're doing it online, you're probably expecting us to ship stuff. We will not ship anything, period. We will probably try to help you coordinate with other people or shipping companies or something like that. I mean, I don't mind loading stuff into a truck, but if you ask me to palletize everything out there, I will not. So, and we're not going to have the ability to use like our own UPS and stuff like that. So bear with us. Send people to pick stuff up. If you can make it here, I swear you'll get better deals than you probably could ever even imagine. We'll probably be giving stuff away towards the end. We don't want to have to carry stuff away from here, and we don't want it to go to scrap. I'd rather see you get it for free than it just get melted. The party and pickup, so that's kind of like the after party or whatever. Celebration of life of Cooperative Motorworks. That's planned for Sunday the 22nd, and you can start picking up things, or we can start planning out. Anyone that bought stuff through the auction online instead of buying it in person, that's how that'll be coordinated. We'll have pretty much the rest of the month to kind of coordinate getting stuff off site, and if you're wanting stuff delivered to you in some state, if you tell us where you're at, we might have other people going to that area or something. So, I don't know how that's all going to work out. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants at this point. But yeah, so that's kind of it. I hope I answered most of your guys' questions. And if you're out there saying stuff on Facebook or whatever and you don't know what's going on, please at least watch the video and talk to us. Jim would love to, have a phone call and explain everything. I will answer emails and maybe call you back if you send me your contact info. I love talking to people too. I actually really enjoy all the phone calls and stuff, but not when I have to do a million other things. So I like to call people back on my times, and then I can put my hearing aids in and I can actually hear you and get away from all the hustle and bustle. So all right, I hope to see you guys at the auction and the rally, and keep the dream alive.